Thank you for joining me for this episode of God Talk. And on this episode of God Talk, I'm going to once again this week do a little continuation of the Bible class I did last night. And last night I was intending to do angels and demons for my Bible class. And so there's a lot of information on angels, and then I found a lot of information on demons. So I decided to break it up a little bit, and we just talked about demons. And I showed a video to the class, and it was a pretty good class. And the interview was from the Daily Wire, and I would highly recommend if you weren't in my class and you're listening to this podcast, I'd highly recommend that you listen to this interview. It's called Stories from an Exorcist, and Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire is interviewing Father Dan Reehil is who the interview's with, and it's an hour and 45 minutes long. But I have to tell you, like, I watched it in the middle of the day, and I have to tell you, any videos that I watch in the middle of the day, 95% of them, like, I just start falling asleep, and I'm like, are these not boring? I mean, these not good? Are they boring? Why am I falling asleep? This was an hour and 45 minutes long, and I did not fall asleep once. It is very, very engaging. It's not sensational. It will have some stuff in there that will make your skin, like, creep and crawl. But a vast majority of it is very down to earth and practical, and very, very, very engaging. It's interesting. The question is, are there demons amongst us? And the answer is absolutely. There are demons amongst us. We see it in the Bible. And there's stories in the Bible where not only does Jesus cast out demons, but he sends his disciples and followers to cast out demons as well. Some demons are easy to get rid of, but then the disciples come back and say, we can get rid of these evil spirits. And it says in situations like that, those are difficult ones, and they only come out through prayer. We see these demons have mighty strength. They have super knowledge, and so they exist. We don't talk about them in modern society. It's kind of taboo. Churches don't talk about them. But just because we don't talk to them doesn't mean they don't exist, and it doesn't mean that there's not a spiritual battle going on all around us. It very much is. But if you're blinded to it, you're only going to see what you want to see. So if you choose to believe that they don't exist, you're not going to see it. But if you choose to believe they do exist, you will see them in many different ways and forms. And it's not all this supernatural crazy stuff. Sometimes it's in the very ordinary that you can see demons around us. It was interesting. I had the video yesterday, which is very eye-opening. Once again, you have to watch it if you haven't. But I've got a couple parts in my house that, like, they're not necessarily, they don't give you the best feeling in it. When we first moved into the house, I actually have a room that is in the front end of the house. It's used like an extra bedroom, but it doesn't have a closet, so it's not technically a bedroom. But I think even the people that were there in the house before us use it as a bedroom. Anyways, I affectionately call it is the ghost room, because early on when we moved into that house, there was just weird things that would happen in that room. And so above that room, a little bit above it and to the left is the movie room. And the movie rooms doesn't always give you the best feel if you're in the movie room. In fact, most of the people in my house, wouldn't go up there and stay in there by themselves. And so, a lot of times I'll actually sleep in the ghost room. And it's been a few years since anything crazy's happened in that room. And then sometimes, like, I'll go upstairs because there's recliners in the movie room, and they're kind of comfortable to sleep in. And the kids are out of the house, so the upstairs tends to be quiet. So you can sleep in longer and stuff up there without being interrupted. And so this morning I went up there. I don't know, it was about 4:30 in the morning. And because I know that the room has a reputation of being a little creepy, a lot of times when I'll go in there, there's different lights. There's overhead lights you can turn on, and then there's, kind of a push button light that you can dim, these can lights. And so I went up there. It's 4:30 in the morning, and I went to push the lights, and then I, turned them on at the lowest setting, and I thought to myself, how creepy would it be if these lights just kind of went out on their own? And I didn't give it a lot more thought to it, other than I had the thought, and I just watched the interview the night before with the Exorcist, and what's funny is, probably about 30 minutes into just kind of dozing up in that room, sure enough, the lights just went out completely. Now, mind you, the only way that those lights can go out completely is there's like a push button. And I mean, it's like a knob that you have to push in, and that turns them off and on. And once they're on, you can make them really bright, or you can make them really dim. But it's a push. It's a literally knob that you have to push in, so it doesn't go in easily. But somehow the lights were turned off. So I thought it was somehow interesting that I just had that, like, the video that we all watched in class, followed by the thought when I went up there at 4:30 in the morning, and this what can be somewhat creepy room, that wouldn't it be creepy if the lights just went off on their own, which is really every nightmare I've ever had about, like, demons and evil spirits, and I have to tell you, I dream about those somewhat frequently, because I'm usually fighting them in my dreams and trying to cast them out back to hell in the name of Jesus. But almost always all my dreams have to do with, like, lights involuntarily, like, not coming on when they're supposed to go on, or for whatever reason, there's always that imagery involved in it. So that's how my morning got started. I'm not going to read anything into it. I didn't leave the room. Honestly, I didn't get back up and mess with the lights and try to turn them back on. I just kind of rolled over and thought, you know what, I'm too tired for this. It's still before 5 in the morning, and I don't really care. and so nothing became of it. But I can't rule out that there was not some friend hanging around the house trying to get my attention, but it did not work. I've had some of my own experiences. I share from time to time on God Talk some of my experiences with the good, with experiencing God and in His presence in some very real ways in my life, throughout my life. And I have to tell you, I've experienced it a little bit from the other side. I remember when I was in college, I was working security at a high rise, and I was working in the control center, and then I had people that were like rovers, we called them. They would walk the building and report, 12th floor, everything's fine. 15th floor, first floor. They'd walk all the floors, and they'd have to report in from time to time. And at the control center, you just kind of keep logs and keep track that this is when the floor was being checked and this is that. Well, during my time at this high rise downtown Austin, I was going through some renovation, and a lot of the construction workers were talking about one of these floors being haunted. And not only were they talking about it, but some of my people that were roving and roaming the building were coming back with similar experiences. And there was one day I was really kind of bored in the control center. And if you know me, you would know that, like, people would tell me that, and I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. If it's you, you're going to be like, where were you at? What did you see? What time did it happen? And what floor were you on? But if you truly know me, I'm not a detail-oriented person. I only care about things from a 30,000-foot level. So I am interested that you had those experiences, but it's not like me to say, other than what happened, I'm not going to ask, where were you? What floor were you on? What part of the floor were you when it happened? I just don't care about those kind of details. Just tell me the story. Tell me the interesting part. The rest of it just takes up space in my mind. If you know me, you know that I'm not exaggerating. That is how my mind operates. So anyways, I was getting reports that they were, some nefarious circumstances were going on, and people were experiencing some crazy things. And I was bored one evening. It was nighttime, and so I decided to have someone sit down at the control center for me, and I went and did a tour of all the floors. Not a tour, but just patrolling all the floors. And there was one floor I got off on, and now there were multiple floors that were being renovated. So I did not know which floor was the one that people were having the experiences on. But I got off on this one floor, and I swear the second I got off the elevator, I felt like something sticking on my back of my neck, like, flies on a... Well, I can't. I could say that, but I won't say that. But anyways, it was not a good feeling. but I'm somewhat stubborn, and you're not going to get me just to turn around. And so I'm going to prove that this doesn't bother me. So I keep walking deeper and deeper into the floor to patrol it, make sure everything's okay and whatever. But I mean, I swear, the deeper I got into that floor, the worse that feeling of dread felt, and to the point that I cut the floor short. I mean, I cut it significantly short. I may have only been on that floor for 2 or 3 minutes. I decided, you know what? I'm going back to the elevator, and then I went back to the control center because I wanted to know what floor they were having these experiences on. And when I went down back to the control center and I said, what floor are these experiences happening on? It was the floor that I was on. Now, I can't empirically prove anything. I didn't hear any voice yell at me, get out, but I can tell you I felt uncomfortable and I didn't like it. So that was an encounter that I've had. I've had others. I've helped a friend move into their house, and helping them move into their house, I was taking stuff up in the attic. And as I was taking stuff up in the attic, I swear I saw a dark, shadowy object about the half the size of me, too big to be a squirrel or a rodent, too small to be a full-size person. But it darted and took off when I got up there. I didn't tell the friend that I think you just moved into a haunted house. But a couple weeks later, this person starts telling me the stories that they were starting to experience. And I'm like, well, actually, I saw something when I was in your attic. And this person was hearing footsteps up in the attic. So, all right. I can't prove it. I'm just saying these are experiences. I've been laying on a bed a couple times by myself, and that bed begins to vibrate, like someone's got their hands and they're pushing down on it and making it shake. Both times that happened, I just I kind of laugh and turn over, kind of like I did, this morning when the lights went out in that room for no reason. You're not going to get a reaction out of me. Mind you, if I'm watching it at a movie theater or on a television show, I'm going to be like, oh man, I would freak out at that. Like, watching someone else go through it is always, for some reason, 100% worse than when you kind of experience these things for yourself. So I just find if you kind of ignore them, they just stop. It's I think half the fun for whether these are demons or ghosts or whoever is honestly just to get a reaction out of you. I can tell you, in the ghost room, I had my leg pulled once. I was wide awake, and I clearly felt a grasp around my my ankle and a yank on my leg. Once again, I didn't move, I didn't run, I didn't scream, I didn't whatever. I just lay there. Once again, I am too tired for this, and nothing else became of it. And I've had other encounters at that friend's house that had the ghost or evil spirit in their house. I went upstairs to try to simulate the walking of the attic, and it was interesting. The previous owners had carpeted the attic. You got to ask, why do you carpet an attic other than you're trying to dampen footsteps that they heard up there? But after I dropped the ladder to the attic, they're attached by springs. Climbed the attic and taken about a few steps in. About let's just say 20 seconds after I'm up on in the attic by myself, no one else is on the ladder, no one else is around. Someone took those springs and just snapped them, where the spring made a loud, just like someone pulled back on it on a guitar string and let it go. And once again, I didn't freak, I didn't scream, I didn't oh me, I just laughed and said, is that the best that you got? The crazy thing is, as Joe will tell you, Joe will walk in to the kitchen, and I'm in the kitchen, and I will yell and I'll levitate and jump. I am easily startled. He just did it to me on Sunday. I was in the laundry room of the church there that's attached to the kitchen, and I'm walking out the door as he's walking by, and he's in super stealth mode. I keep telling him I'm going to put a bell around him, and I am easily startled. But for some reason, when it comes to these paranormal experiences, they just don't I don't know. They don't scare me. They don't startle me. In the video yesterday, one of the things that I thought was interesting is the father that was talking about how abortion is really the sign of evil in the world. That it's almost like all these human sacrifices to Satan that are taking place. And I don't know if these numbers are accurate, but he said like worldwide per day, like over 200,000, let's say 250,000 babies are being killed in the womb. And like maybe 150 or 170,000 people die every day in the world through heart attack, stroke, old age, whatever. I don't know if those numbers are true. Honestly, like I don't even know how you would get those statistics, because I think most places would be trying to hide the amount of babies that are being killed by abortions anyways. So I'm just taking his word for it. Don't know if it's true or not, but if that's the case, if that many people are being killed across the world every day, more people are dying in the womb than outside the womb every day. That is a sign of the wickedness and the evil that is going on in the world today. I write along those lines, and we like to kill people before they're born, but there's been a growth in the euthanasia movement that is killing people after they're born. And I was reading an article today, which is ultimately where I was wanting to go with this podcast, as another sign of evil and demons in this world. But euthanasia was billed, I should say, early on in the Netherlands, and the people who were like the forefront of it is a place for terminally ill people to allow. It's kind of like putting a dog down. Like if you have a terminal disease, there's no recovery from it, and it's going to be a painful death. All right, you can kill yourself. But I was shocked to find out that those laws have changed in places like the Netherlands. And this article that I was reading was this about this 28-year-old Dutch woman who's set to kill herself in May, and she's completely healthy, but she suffers from depression. And she just doesn't want to live anymore. And under the laws there in the Netherlands, she's allowed to take her life with euthanasia. So she's got a boyfriend. She has a couple cats in the house, and lives in a nice home. She's physically healthy. Now she's a functioning autistic person, so she has autism and apparently some borderline personality disorders. And apparently she was going to school to become a psychiatrist, but she wasn't able to complete the degree, and her depression is being exacerbated because of her, personality disorder and so forth. And so this person that is dealing with autism and a personality disorder in depression is able to make a decision for themselves. They're going to kill themselves just because they don't want to live a life of depression, of mediocrity, or however they're seeing their lives. It has nothing. She's not terminal. I mean, she's not going to die, but she has the ability to do it under Dutch law. And so the process, is interesting. She says that she'll be administered a sedative on her couch before getting the lethal injection. And this is a quote from her. She says, the doctor really takes your time. Most of the time, it starts with a cup of coffee to settle the nerves. I'm thinking coffee tends to, I don't know, make some people agitated with the caffeine and stuff like that. But okay, hey doc, you're coming over to kill me? Like, yeah, would you like cream in your coffee, some sugar? I don't have a lot of supplies because you see I'm about to kill myself today, but I do have a few drops of cream left and some 1 or 2 sugar packets left. Okay. And then she says, I'll take my place on the couch, and she will ask again if I'm sure. And then she'll start the procedure. And boy, that jumped out at me. It's not, it's like abortion. It's a procedure. Why don't we call it what it is? It's killing. Abortion is killing, at the beginning of life. And when we're taking a life, it's not a procedure. It's killing. But when you call it a different term like that, procedure, I think that's really how demons work. I think that's how evil works. We substitute certain words that relieve our conscience of the fact of what it is we're doing. And so you had your cup of coffee with the person who's going to kill you. I mean, you for a lot less, you could probably just invited someone in to rob your home and kill you, and it'd be quicker and cheaper. But okay, we're going to use a doctor for this. We're going to share a cup of coffee together. I'm going to get comfy on my couch, and you're going to make sure that I'm ready, for the procedure to begin. And you're going to wish me, and these are her words, a good journey. But then she says, or in my case, it's a nap, because she says, I hate when people say a journey because I'm not going anywhere. This is the mindset of the person who's being allowed to kill themselves, that they're hanging up on the fact that the doctor's going to tell them good journey. They'd rather have a good nap. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not a nap either. You're offended that like they're going to say journey because you're not going anywhere. You are going somewhere. It's going to be hell. But like it ain't no nap. I know that's not good English, but I said that for effect. So, and this is what she said about dying. She said, I'm a little afraid of dying because it's the ultimate unknown. We really don't know what is next or if there is anything next. And that's the scary part. And you know what? That is the scary part. And it's the scary part because that's where we're at as a society, that we allow healthy people to kill themselves or mentally ill people to kill themselves. And these people don't even know what comes next or if anything does come next. And that's because not only has the church ultimately failed, but we've allowed the government to replace the church, and people don't even know that they're created in the image of God. They don't know that there's a heaven, that there's a hell, and so for them it's just a great surprise. Like, is it a journey? Am I going somewhere? Or am I just taking a nap? Is there something or is there? These weren't questions in the 1500s. These weren't questions in the 1700s. These weren't questions in the 500s. These have never been the question in Western civilization for as long as Jesus came into this world and Christianity swept over the West. People knew what happens when you die. You're going to one place, heaven or hell. Now it's just the great unknown, and this is the muting of the dumbing down of like people's minds and their conscience. In the same way, like you don't see demons if you don't really believe they exist, or you don't know if they exist. You don't see heaven or hell in your mind or thoughts because you don't know if they exist or they really exist. It just becomes some sort of some sort of discussion that maybe you ponder on or you opine about, that there's no real tangible implications to your actions. In the Netherlands in 2022, there's 8,720 deaths by euthanasia. That's 5% of all the deaths in that country in 2022. 5% of the people who died in this country were killed. And as a society, they're okay with that. And once again, like now they don't even have to be terminal. In fact, this is the real kicker. Last year, the euthanasia laws in the Netherlands have been expanded for children that are between the ages of 1 and 12 years old for reasons of hopeless and unbearable suffering. Let me ask you, what is hopeless and unbearable suffering? Is that you're confined to a wheelchair with some sort of neuro disease? Is it that your 6-year-old's got depression? Is unbearable suffering? Is that emotional? Is it physical? A combination of both? Like it doesn't have to be terminal, but if you're kind of like in some pain and emotionally you can't handle it, like if you're bullied and you just don't want to live, and who makes a decision to be able to kill a 1-year-old? Who makes a decision to kill the 3-year-old? And what about a 12-year-old? Do they make that decision for themselves, or do the parents make that decision for them? So here's where I want you to take this is like, do you want to see demons? You don't have to like go up to your movie room and be freaked out about when lights go out. You don't have to be freaked out if the bed shakes or even levitates if you're lying on it. You don't have to be freaked out if like something grabs your ankle when there's nothing in the room with you and yanks on your leg. That shouldn't be scary to you. What should be scary is that like we live in a world in which thinks it's fine for healthy people to just like call a doctor over to end their lives. And that we can do that with children because, maybe they're struggling too much or suffering. Guess what? Struggling and suffering has always been a part of life, and it's what gives life its value. It's what helps us to overcome and endure and draws us closer to God. It's through our suffering, Paul says, that we rely on the grace and the mercy of God. And we all want this like pansy type existence in which there's no pain and suffering. We don't even know how to handle pain and suffering anymore because we try to insulate ourselves from it so much. So don't go to the Netherlands. I'm sorry, don't go to watch the latest rendition of The Exorcist. If you want to see demons, go to the Netherlands. You know what? Go to an abortion clinic. The father told stories about how these Wiccans, these witches, that would like to do sacrifices, they'll pay for someone's abortion. And for the person getting the abortion, wow, what a godsend. I don't even have to pay for the abortion, but the person paying for it, that's how they do their sacrificing. Some that do this, I'm not saying everyone that has abortions has this happen, but literally people are paying for other people's abortions as sacrifices to Satan. Go to a homeless shelter. I guarantee you'll see evil there. Go to a prison. I've been there. I've done prison ministry. I've seen them in homeless shelters. I've seen evil in prisons. Go to a political gathering. You don't think there's demons and evil in political gatherings? Oh my goodness. Don't fool yourself. Go to a gathering of elitists. The people who are really calling the shots of civilization. You don't think Satan has infiltrated like the people that are determining what direction society goes? I mean, I don't think that Satan is concerned about the worker at 7-Eleven as he is about the person who might be making monetary policies for the world. So go to a nice gathering of elitist people, and I bet you can find a demon or two hanging around there. You know what? Maybe go to your neighbors, because this stuff is a lot more prevalent than what you realize. And once we open our eyes to the fact that evil exists and demons exist, and in the rare forms, sometimes you'll see people levitate, or the father talked about this nun that 2,000 people witnessed climbed 20 feet up the side of a wall. That would get my attention. It might actually put some goosebumps on me. Certainly if I watched it in a movie, it would. Whether or not it did in person, I might still be like, I'm still not impressed. I don't know. I haven't experienced that, but where I have experienced some supernatural, like evil type things, it's just not like... I don't mean it disrespectfully, because evil is, demons and Satan, they certainly have far more power than what we do. But with faith in God and Christ Jesus, he protects us, and we ultimately rely and we trust on that. And we're just warned, right? That as we reach these end times, like the increase of evil and wickedness are going to abound. Satan is going to have his little season, and I'm here to tell you, you just have to open your eyes to the world today, and it is clear Satan is having a season. So there's a spiritual war going on all around us. Have your eyes wide open. Recognize it for what it is. It's not just someone floating in the air or climbing up the wall. It's what's going on in the world all around us. If you were not in my class and you did not see that the video, once again, I highly encourage you to watch the video. Once again, it's a Daily Wire interview, Stories from an Exorcist, Michael Knowles, and Father Dan Rahill. Thank you for joining me for this episode of God Talk. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking to you next week. God bless.